Echoes of Ashford Heights. Ashford Heights was the quintessential American suburb, a picturesque town where community gatherings and friendly waves were the norm. The streets were lined with well-kept homes, their yards adorned with seasonal decorations. As autumn approached, the town prepared for Halloween, eagerly anticipating the festivities that marked the season. The atmosphere was one of cozy anticipation, but beneath this veneer of normalcy, a dark and sinister force was beginning to stir. The town's annual Halloween parade was one of the highlights of the year, with neighbors and friends gathering to enjoy the colorful floats and costumes. Families lined the streets, children darted around in costumes, and the air was filled with laughter and the scent of caramel apples. But behind the festive facade, a shadow loomed over Ashford Heights, threatening to unravel the fabric of its seemingly perfect existence. It all began in late September when Grace Mitchell, a beloved librarian and active community member, vanished without a trace. Grace had been a pillar of the town, known for her dedication to the local library and her volunteer work at various community events. Her husband, Tom Mitchell, was well known in town for his quiet demeanor and support for Grace's various causes. Grace had set out for a walk in the late afternoon, a routine she cherished for its tranquility and the chance to unwind from her busy day. When she failed to return home by nightfall, Tom grew increasingly concerned. He first tried calling her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. With mounting worry, Tom contacted the local police, and soon the town was engulfed in a search operation. Detective Sarah Lawson, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for solving intricate cases, was assigned to the disappearance. Sarah, with her sharp mind and intuitive skills, quickly realized that Grace's disappearance was out of character. The search efforts were extensive, involving volunteers, local police, and even search dogs. The community rallied together, organizing searches and distributing flyers, but no trace of Grace was found. The town's residents were filled with anxiety and fear, as Grace was well-loved and her sudden absence left a gaping hole in the community. A week later, the town was rocked by the discovery of Grace's body in a secluded park on the edge of town. The scene was nothing short of horrific. Grace's body was found arranged in a macabre display, surrounded by scattered books and eerie symbols drawn in the dirt. The arrangement seemed ritualistic, with the books forming a semicircle around her body, each one open to pages that bore disturbing illustrations. The sight was a chilling tableau that suggested a deliberate and methodical killer. Detective Lawson, along with Chief Mark Dawson, who had been overseeing the investigation, meticulously examined the scene. The symbols and the arrangement hinted at a deeper motive, something beyond mere random violence. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the crime was part of a larger, more sinister pattern. The murder of Grace Mitchell was just the beginning. The community's shock was palpable, and the fear that gripped Ashford Heights was tangible. The once peaceful streets now seemed ominous, and every corner was scrutinized with suspicion. The town's normal routine was upended, and the search for Grace's killer became a central focus of everyone's lives. As the days passed, the anxiety in Ashford Heights grew. The local police, led by Chief Dawson, worked tirelessly to reassure the community and pursue leads, but their efforts were in vain, as no new evidence emerged and the case began to grow cold. Then, tragedy struck again. Emily Carter, a single mother of two who had been active in organizing the town's Halloween parade, went missing. Emily was known for her generosity and community spirit, and her disappearance sent shockwaves through the town. Her two young children, Ethan and Ava, were left in the care of relatives, their lives turned upside down by their mother's sudden absence. The search for Emily was as exhaustive as the one for Grace. Yet, despite the best efforts of the town's residents and authorities, no trace of Emily was found. The town's once vibrant Halloween preparations were overshadowed by a deepening sense of dread. The vibrant decorations and festive events became stark reminders of the horrors that lurked beneath the surface. The community's anxiety turned to dread when Emily's body was discovered a week later in a similar setting to Grace's. The parallels between the two crime scenes were unmistakable. Emily's body was found in a local pumpkin patch, surrounded by Halloween decorations arranged in a disturbing manner. The killer's method was becoming increasingly apparent, and the pattern was causing mounting fear among the townspeople. Detective Lawson, grappling with the gravity of the situation, knew that the killer was targeting individuals with connections to the community. The methodical nature of the crimes indicated that the perpetrator was someone who understood the town's routines and knew how to exploit its vulnerabilities. Sarah began focusing on individuals who had close ties to the victims, hoping that one of them might reveal a crucial lead. The investigation centered on 4 key individuals who had been particularly close to the victims. Emily Davis, a friendly neighbor and close friend of Grace Mitchell. Emily had often been seen at Grace's house, helping with various community events. Her deep connection to Grace made her a person of interest, but her concern for her missing friend seemed genuine. David Carter, a fellow schoolteacher and close friend of Michael Thompson. David had been involved in the town's educational activities and had a history of heated disagreements with Michael. His frequent arguments with Michael had drawn attention, but he was also known for his dedication to his students. Lisa Grant, a local artist who had been working on decorations for the Halloween parade. Lisa was known for her creative talent and had been seen in close proximity to the crime scenes. Her involvement in the parade made her a potential link to the killer, but her artistic flair and enthusiasm seemed out of place with the grim reality of the murders. Mark Reynolds, the town's handyman, known for his work around the community. Mark had been a familiar face in various neighborhoods and had recently been seen near the locations of the murders. His presence in multiple areas made him a person of interest, but his role as a handyman also meant he had legitimate reasons to be around. As the investigation dragged on, the tension in Ashford Heights escalated. The once vibrant town now felt like a place under siege where fear lurked around every corner. Parents kept their children close, and the Halloween festivities, which were usually a source of joy, had become a source of dread. The decorations and celebrations that once symbolized the town's hope now served as reminders of the danger. Detective Lawson continued to probe into the lives of the few individuals of interest. Emily Davis, David Carter, Lisa Grant, and Mark Reynolds each had their own stories and alibis, Sarah's team began to scrutinize David's activities and connections more closely, searching for any indication that he might be involved in the murders. With 3 victims and mounting pressure to solve the case, Sarah intensified her focus on David Carter. David's interactions with the victims, his erratic behavior, and his presence at the crime scenes all contributed to the growing suspicion. Sarah decided to confront David, hoping to extract a confession or gain crucial evidence. During the interrogation, David's demeanor shifted from defensiveness to agitation. He initially denied any involvement in the murders, but his responses became increasingly erratic. David admitted to being at the scenes of the crimes, but claimed that he had been there for unrelated reasons. The breakthrough came when Sarah discovered hidden evidence in David's home, a series of disturbing journals detailing the killer's thoughts and plans. The journals revealed a deep-seated resentment toward the town and its residents. David's motivations stemmed from a feeling of being undervalued and overlooked, despite his significant contributions to the community. The murders were his twisted way of gaining attention and asserting his presence. Sarah's team found additional evidence linking David to the murders, including personal items from the victims and the disturbing journals that detailed his plans and emotions. David was arrested and charged with the murders, and his trial became a media sensation. With David Carter in custody, the town of Ashford Heights began the process of healing. The fear and anxiety that had gripped the community slowly faded, but the scars of the tragedy remained. The once peaceful town had been forever changed by the actions of one of their own. Detective Sarah Lawson, though relieved to have solved the case, was haunted by the memories of the victims and the impact of the murders on the community. Ashford Heights would remember the echoes of the tragedy for years to come, a somber reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind the facade of suburban tranquility. The town eventually began to rebuild, finding solace in their shared strength and resilience. The Halloween festivities resumed, but with a newfound sense of vigilance and a lingering memory of the darkness that had once overshadowed their lives. The community came together to support the victims' families and honor their memories, determined to reclaim their sense of safety and unity. As the years passed, Ashford Heights continued to remember the victims and the lessons learned from the tragedy. The town's sense of community, once tested by fear and violence, grew stronger, and the echoes of the past became a reminder of the resilience and strength of the people who called Ashford Heights home. The Midnight Harvest. Nestled in the rolling hills of rural Kentucky, Meadowbrook was a town known for its serene landscapes and close-knit community. Its charm lay in its simplicity: rustic farms, friendly neighbors, and a slow pace of life. The town's most prominent feature was its annual Harvest Festival, which celebrated the end of the harvest season with parades, fairs, and bountiful feasts. This year's festival was particularly significant as it marked the 150th anniversary of the town's founding. The excitement was palpable, with vibrant banners strung across streets, food stalls lining the town square, and carnival rides ready for the influx of visitors and locals. The town's residents had been working tirelessly to make the festival a memorable event. The preparations included decorating the streets with autumnal hues, setting up a corn maze, and organizing a grand parade featuring antique tractors and homemade floats. Meadowbrook was buzzing with the energy of anticipation, but beneath the surface, an undercurrent of unease began to stir. The first incident. The first sign of trouble came when Emily Ross, a local schoolteacher and a beloved member of the community, went missing. Emily had been heavily involved in organizing the festival, coordinating various activities, and ensuring everything was in place for the big event. Her sudden disappearance was met with growing concern and confusion. Her husband, Sam Ross, reported her missing after she failed to return home from running errands for the festival. Sam's frantic search for Emily quickly mobilized the town, but as the days turned into a week with no sign of her, the sense of dread grew stronger. The local authorities, initially hopeful that Emily would return safely, were soon confronted with the grim reality of the situation. Detective Laura Hayes, a seasoned investigator from a nearby city, was called in to lead the investigation. Laura had recently moved to Meadowbrook and was still familiarizing herself with the town's dynamics. The case was unsettling from the start. Emily's disappearance was compounded by the eerie absence of any clues. Then, a chilling discovery was made. Emily's body was found in a nearby cornfield, her body partially concealed among the tall stalks. The scene was unsettling, a macabre display of Emily's body surrounded by carved pumpkins with eerie, vacant eyes. The pumpkins were arranged in a disturbing fashion, suggesting a grotesque tribute to the festival. The sight was both haunting and puzzling, sending waves of shock through the town. The once cheerful cornfield had become a crime scene, and the festive atmosphere was tainted by the grim reality of the murder. Detective Hayes immediately began her investigation by interviewing those closest to Emily. The suspects included Sam Ross, Emily's husband, who had been deeply involved in the festival preparations. His distress and the fact that he was one of the last people to see Emily raised suspicion, though his genuine grief seemed to point away from guilt. Lydia Thompson, the town's head of the festival committee and Emily's colleague. Lydia had been working closely with Emily on the festival plans. The two women had recently had a heated argument over the direction of the festival, making Lydia a person of interest. Jake Miller, a local farmer and regular volunteer at the festival. Jake had been seen near the cornfield where Emily's body was discovered. His familiarity with the area and his somewhat surly demeanor made him a potential suspect. Olivia Green, a young artist who had been commissioned to create decorations for the festival. Olivia had a history of mental health issues and had been seen acting erratically in the days leading up to Emily's disappearance. The investigation uncovered several clues, but nothing concrete. Laura found herself navigating a web of small-town secrets and hidden resentments. Each suspect had a plausible alibi, but also a potential motive. The case seemed to stall as Detective Hayes struggled to find a breakthrough. Just as the investigation appeared to be losing momentum, another tragedy struck. Rachel Johnson, a local waitress known for her kind heart and dedication to the town's elderly residents, was reported missing. Rachel had been a familiar face around town, and her sudden disappearance was met with disbelief and fear. Her disappearance mirrored Emily's in its suddenness and the growing sense of unease among the townspeople. A week later, Rachel's body was discovered in a similarly disturbing scene. Her body was placed in the center of a makeshift altar made of harvested corn and pumpkins, with candles arranged around her in a circle. The ritualistic nature of the arrangement suggested that the killer was using the festival's theme to mask their heinous acts. The town's fear escalated as the realization set in that they were dealing with a serial killer who was escalating their pattern. Detective Hayes and her team faced mounting pressure as the town's sense of safety eroded. The investigation took on a new urgency, with the townspeople growing increasingly anxious. The festival's preparations continued, but the joy of the event was overshadowed by the growing terror. Detective Hayes decided to delve deeper into the lives of the suspects. Sam Ross's grief and distress seemed genuine, but his presence at the scene of both crimes was troubling. Lydia Thompson's knowledge of the town's history and her involvement in the festival made her a prime suspect. Her recent argument with Emily over the festival's direction suggested a motive, but Lydia's alibi during the time of the murders was solid. Jake Miller, the farmer, had been in the cornfield on the day of Rachel's murder, but his presence was explained by his regular work schedule. Olivia Green, the artist, had exhibited strange behavior, but seemed to have an alibi supported by multiple witnesses. As Laura examined the evidence, she found herself grappling with the complexity of the case. A breakthrough came when Laura reviewed the town's historical records and uncovered a local legend about a mysterious figure known as the Harvest Keeper. According to the legend, the Harvest Keeper performed ritualistic acts during harvest time to ensure a bountiful crop. The similarities between the murders and the rituals described in the legend were striking. Laura realized that the killer's actions were eerily similar to the ancient rites described in the legend. Laura decided to revisit each suspect with this new perspective. Her investigation led her to a hidden room in Lydia Thompson's house. The room contained a collection of old books, notes about harvest rituals, and detailed plans for the festival decorations. Lydia's fascination with the town's history and her recent obsession with the legend took on new significance. Confronting Lydia, Laura learned that Lydia had been deeply influenced by the local legend. Lydia admitted that she had become obsessed with ensuring the town's prosperity through ritualistic acts. She believed that the festival needed to honor the old ways and that sacrifices were necessary to ensure a bountiful harvest. Lydia's argument with Emily had been about the festival's direction, which she felt was straying from tradition. Her obsession with the legend had driven her to commit the murders, believing she was performing a ritual to secure the town's future. Lydia's confession revealed the depths of her delusion and the extent to which her fixation on the legend had twisted her sense of morality. The ritualistic nature of the crime scenes was a reflection of her distorted belief in the need for sacrifices. The townspeople were shocked and horrified to learn that one of their own had committed such heinous acts under the guise of tradition. With Lydia Thompson in custody, Meadowbrook faced the task of processing the shock of the revelations. The Harvest Festival continued, but the atmosphere was subdued. The once joyful celebration became a symbol of the town's resilience and recovery. The festival's organizers worked to honor the victims and support their families, ensuring that the event became a testament to the community's strength. Detective Laura Hayes was commended for her thorough investigation and her role in solving the case. Meadowbrook, though forever changed by the events, began to heal and rebuild. The Harvest Festival was reimagined as a celebration of community unity and strength, rather than just a harvest tradition. The legend of the Harvest Keeper became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dark side of human nature that can emerge from seemingly innocent beliefs. The town learned to cherish its values of togetherness and vigilance, knowing that even in the most peaceful settings, darkness can sometimes lurk just beneath the surface. As the years passed, Meadowbrook continued to honor the memories of the victims and the lessons learned from the tragedy. The town's sense of community, once tested by fear and violence, grew stronger. The Harvest Festival remained a cherished tradition, now imbued with a deeper sense of gratitude and solidarity. In the end, Meadowbrook's story became one of resilience and recovery, a testament to the strength of a community that faced its darkest fears and emerged united. The echoes of the past served as a reminder of the importance of vigilance and the power of collective strength in the face of adversity.